Welcome back, guys, to the Andrei Delic podcast. Today is going to be an episode, a reality check. I want to talk about something that all of us have, something that can be considered as a touchy subject, something that just is good for actually all groups of ages, man, female, whatever your background is, whatever your religion is. This is something that's good for all human beings. And it's facing your fears. Today's episode is going to be talking about facing your fears, how facing your fears helps you throughout life, how to face them, at least from my experience and from the experience of life that I have, and just everything else that encompasses facing your fears, leveling up, and becoming a better version of yourself. So like the quote, the Latin Roman quote goes, FORTIS FORTUNA ADIUVAT. I have this tatted on the top of my back. It means fortune favors the brave. That is probably one of the most, maybe not most beautiful. It's not like a poetic quote, but it's probably like one of the best quotes to have ever been said throughout history. And I think that even like the U.S. Army, some soldiers, I'm not sure which branch, I'm not sure if it's Marines or Air or whatever, but they have this like on their helmet or somewhere on their body, and it's fortune favors the brave, FORTIS FORTUNA ADIUVAT. Whenever you face your fear, the outcome doesn't matter. So if you face your fear, let's say whatever your fear is, you face it, and then whatever the outcome is, you win, you lose, you gain, you don't gain something. Whatever the outcome is, you won. Just simply by facing your fear, that step made you win everything. Like I said, no matter what the outcome is, that's how important it is facing your fears. Because when you face your fears, you become better. And when you become better, you level up and you reach something that you can never reach without facing your fears. So many times people, when it comes to, there is facing your fears, like I said. So you face your fears. And then also, so it's not only facing your fears that people think about, they also think about the result and the outcome. If I face my fears, is it going to be good? Is it going to be negative? Am I going to gain something from it? Am I going to lose something from it? What's going to happen? I don't know. Who knows? It's a bit like in the unknown. That's why we have fears, and that's why people fear certain things, is because it's unknown for them. They have no idea what it's about. They have no idea what's going to happen, and they don't know just in what type of situation they're going to be in and in what type of environment they're going to end up in after and while facing their fears. That's why we have those fears, because that situation is unknown to us. That environment is unknown to us. So that's why we have fear of that. Someone who's that same situation isn't something that he's unaware of, isn't something unknown to him, and isn't an environment that is unknown to him. Well, then of course he's not going to be afraid of it. But if you fear something, and whatever you fear, that's why you have to face it. So the unknown becomes known for your brain, and not only for your brain and for your conscious mind, but it's also something even more deeply rooted in the subconscious mind and even in your nerves and your nervous system and your body. It is scientifically proven by doctors and by psychologists. When you face your fears, when you face things that you're afraid to do, or when you do things that you are afraid to do, new gene codes in your body develop. Your subconscious brain rewires. Your conscious brain also rewires, because you are your conscious brain. So the more you do something you're afraid of, the less you're going to be afraid of it. Because your brain chemistry completely rewires regarding that situation and regarding that fear. You acquire new knowledge, and because of all of those brain activity that changes, all of that rewiring in your brain for the better, for something that is positive, your brain chemistry, your nervous system actually also rewires. That's how fucking crazy it is and how powerful it is when you face your fears. And that's why it's so important. And that's why we all have different fears, because we're all different human beings with different nervous systems, with different brain wiring, with different brain chemistry, and with a different genetic code. So just there's nature and there is nurture also when it comes to fears. What do you fear and what you don't fear? There's nature by being born, and then there's nurture by going through life experiences and trying things and whatever. That's what fear is. So this is why we all have different fears. So first of all, some people are born not fearing the same things as other people. Now, of course, there are some, like basic fears that literally all human beings have. And if you don't, then you just have a mental fucking problem. Being afraid of a bear. Of course, you're going to be afraid of a bear. Of course, your mind and your brain chemistry is wired to be afraid of a bear because we know the dangers of approaching a bear. There's a chance of him killing us, eating us alive, and just fucking taking our life and killing us. So of course, we're going to be afraid of a bear, something that's wired inside of us since we're born, basically. Or at least since we gain consciousness, if I can say it like that. Other things like we're afraid of, you come at the edge of a cliff, you're afraid to jump, of course, because your brain is wired in a way to understand, okay, if I jump, even if I never did it before, I still know that I'm going to die. So I'm not going to fucking do it because I don't want to die. But in this episode, when I'm talking about fears, those aren't the type of fears I'm talking about. I'm talking about fears that aren't allowing you to grow, to reach your full potential, to reach your goals and your dreams. Just fears that don't allow you to reach your full potential and whoever you want to be. Those are the fears I'm talking about. And we all have them. I have them. You have them. Whoever you are, no matter who you are on planet fucking Earth, you have fears, no matter who you are. So like I said, some people in general, it's always been known, it's always been said that the biggest fear throughout humans on planet Earth is public speaking. They say that number one is public speaking, and then number two is death. So, of course, in general, in a way, everyone from the beginning is going to be afraid of public speaking in a way. Some people are going to be more accustomed to it since the beginning than others. Some people are just going to be a bit more careless about other people's opinions, a bit more careless about public opinion, and just about public speaking in general. But I feel like in general, that is the number one fear because in general, all human beings have that fear of public speaking. Then, of course, death, which is something that's really normal. So that is something, let's take public speaking since it's the number one fear throughout humanity and throughout the world, right? So let's say there's person one and person two. Both of them are born, right? Person one is slightly more accustomed to public speaking and is slightly more comfortable in front of an audience and for public speaking than person number two. But they both still have fears, but this one has more fear than the other one. Both still have to face their fears. They will both level up. Now, of course, to a different level because he's starting out in a better level, if we might say. But if this person quits after 2 or 3 events of public speaking, and this person who's biologically and naturally less talented and less brave for public speaking, if he or she keeps going for years and years, at the end of the day, that person, after having faced so many of his fears regarding public speaking, he's going to be more comfortable in front of an audience and he's going to be more comfortable speaking publicly than the person who was more talented in the beginning and more brave, less scared of public speaking. Because this person's talent, this person's fear has wiped off completely, or at least almost completely, while this person still has fear of public speaking. And this is also how it works. It's not only by facing your fear once that it necessarily leaves for always. How it works, I remember seeing the movie It, the scary movie It, right? It's a scary movie with the clown who lives in the sewer. And that movie, when I finished the movie, I realized exactly what the movie is talking about. The movie is talking about facing your fears. The clown represents fear, and you have to face your fear. You have to face the clown. Because the only way that the clown has power over you in the movie is when you're afraid of it. The clown only has power over people who are afraid of it. If you're someone who isn't afraid of the clown in the movie, the clown has no power over you, and it shrinks and shrinks and shrinks until it's literally a little baby and it can't do nothing. So that's what the movie is. But in the movie, at the end, they also say that if ever the clown comes back, we still have to face it again. Whenever it comes back, we face it again. It comes back, we face it again. We face it, it shrinks, it leaves. Okay, bro, it comes back, we have to face it again. It shrinks, it leaves. That's also in life. So let's say you have a fear. My first fear, this podcast, first episode was public speaking, okay? So I did the first episode. I was hot. I was stressed out. I was fearful. I didn't know what's happening, lights, cameras. I was stressed out of my mind. That was one of my fears, right? I did it once. The second episode, I didn't have that fear anymore. I had it less, but I still had it. Third episode, same. Fourth, fifth, sixth. It compounds. It gets less and less bigger. The clown diminishes. The monster, it becomes smaller and smaller and smaller in my brain, inside of me. That fear, that demon, that dragon that I have to slay becomes weaker and weaker and weaker. And whenever I slay it, leaves, but it always comes back. And whenever it comes back, and I cannot just say, oh, but I faced it once. I scared it away once, so now I'm good. No, because whenever it comes back, you have to face it again. So it shrinks back and then it leaves. In life, you cannot be static. It's either you're going forward or you're going backwards. And if you're not going forward, you're going backwards. You cannot stay in the same place for the rest of your life. That's how life is. So when people feel like they've peaked and they don't want to go further, well, then you're going to go backwards. You're going to degress in certain things because life is all about change, and life is constantly changing, and humans are constantly evolving or devolving and changing. That's how it is. So whatever your fear is, of course, I used public speaking because that's like the number one fear for, I don't have statistics, but I can say for like 95% of human beings. I've never met I've never met a person who is comfortable publicly speaking the first time. Like he was born, he never did public speaking, but he was immediately comfortable and he felt like a king on stage. I never met a guy like that. Maybe he exists, I don't know, but I never met a guy who was immediately comfortable speaking publicly the first time he did it. I never met a guy like that. Maybe there is one, but hey, I personally never met one. But this goes for all the fears you might have. Approaching a girl, that's not public speaking, but approaching a girl because you're afraid of rejection. That's why that's why people fear approaching a girl that they find cute, that they're interested in, that they find beautiful. It's scary, right? But also, let me tell you one thing. If I was to tell you, go approach that girl, and that's a girl who you don't find attractive and you have no interest in, you're not going to be afraid to approach her because you don't care if she rejects you because you just have no fucking interest in her and you don't find her beautiful. Is the fear of getting rejected by someone that you deeply want. That is where the fear is, and that is what's stopping many people. But like I always tell everyone, if you don't approach her, like now, okay, let's say I'm with my friends. One of my friends sees a girl that he finds really beautiful. He's really attracted to her. He has a crush on her. I always tell him, listen, you have two choices. Either you approach her or you don't. Only one of those two choices might change your current relationship with her. Only one of those two. Because right now, currently, you don't have her. That isn't your girlfriend. If you don't approach her, the same is gonna remain. That's still not gonna be your girlfriend, just like she isn't right now. But if you approach her, at least there's an opportunity of her becoming your girlfriend and the situation not remaining the same of her not being yours or your girlfriend. So it can change. So you literally have nothing to lose. You can only gain because right now, currently, you don't have her. If you don't approach her, you're again and still not going to have her. If you approach her, you might get her. So it's literally a win-win situation. And let me go even further. You don't approach her. You don't win more confidence. You don't become more competent as a human being because you didn't face that fear. You hid away from that fear. You didn't want to face it. So that's number one. And number two, you don't get the girl. So it's a lose-lose situation if you don't approach her. If you approach her, it's only a win-win situation. It's either you get her as your girlfriend, or it's either you level up as a human being and you become less afraid of approaching girls and you become more competent when it comes to approaching girls and when it comes to taking initiative for meeting new people, which is a highly, highly good skill, which is a highly, highly important skill to have in life, especially if you're really ambitious, to have the skill to be able to approach people comfortably and to talk about whatever, just be able to approach people that you don't know and you don't care, you just approach them. That's a really, really good and important skill to have for anyone who's ambitious in life and wants to accomplish whatever, right? So when you approach her, it's a win-win situation. And it can even be a double win situation, meaning that you approach her, you get more comfortable approaching people, you become more confident, more competent, you face your fears, meaning you level up, and plus you get her as your girlfriend. So approaching the girl that you're afraid to approach at the bar, approaching her it's literally a win-win situation. And it can even be a double win situation. There's no losses when it comes to approaching a girl. Because even if the girl tells you, no, I'm not interested, get away, I don't want to talk to you, I have a boyfriend, whatever. Just the fact that you approached her and just the fact that you faced failure and you faced rejection and you kept moving forward, you're going to level up so much. The genetic code in your body is going to change so much and you're going to become way more competent, way more confident, and just a way more leveled up person. I guess we can say, let's stick with leveling up. A way more leveled up person than you were before by doing that. So you cannot lose. It's only win-win situations by facing your fears. And this goes for many other things that people might be afraid of. Just out of curiosity, I'm curious to see what's like the top 10 things that people fear the most in the world. What are the top 10 biggest fears in the world for all of humanity? Like, I'm pretty sure number 1 is public speaking, because I heard that so many times. There isn't one official universal ranking, makes sense. But they can go, so fear of death, of course, the most universal fear, which is something that's normal. We all fear death. Fear of failure, not reaching your potential, letting yourself or others down, huge in career relationships. Fear of rejection, of course, being disliked, embarrassed, or excluded. I guess like this goes with, I guess that's also why people are so afraid of public speaking, because you're afraid of people not agreeing with your point of view, not agreeing with the way you think. And even you're afraid of people literally saying that you're dumb and that you don't know what you're talking about. Like it happens to me so many fucking times. Like whenever I post a clip regarding, especially if it's a hot take, like in football or in politics, whatever, I get comments from fucking people calling me idiots and even people DMing me, telling me that I don't know shit and I should fucking stop my podcast and I don't know what I'm talking about. So there's also that people fear a lot. I feel like I don't really fear that anymore. Like whenever I see comments, it doesn't really get to me. If they're funny, I'm going to find them funny. I mean, I'm actually going to laugh. Like some people are actually really fucking funny. Just like when you scroll on social media, you always look at the comments because the comment section is always the funniest section of the clip. Fear of the unknown. That's also a big one. Fear of pain, physical or emotional. Fear of being alone. Fear of lack of control, feeling powerless, losing autonomy over your life, finances, health, or freedom. Fear of illness/disease, getting sick or disabled, includes pandemics, chronic illness, mental health struggles. Fear of natural disasters, earthquake, war, climate disaster. I feel like maybe this isn't something that we really have in Canada. War, I can understand. Like so many countries, like let's say where my parents are from, ex-Yugoslavia, every generation suffered a war. So it's kind of normal that every generation fears that there's going to be another war because that region of the world, that region in Europe, the Balkans, is really, really politically unstable, like crazy politically unstable. They had First World War, which was actually caused by a Serbian. For people who don't know the story, the soon-to-be prince of Austria-Hungary, he went to Sarajevo, the capital of Bosnia. He was riding around on in his car, I guess. Maybe it was pulled by a horse, I'm not sure. But he was riding around in his car, and his Serbian Gavrilo Princip, he pulled up with a gun and he killed him. That's what caused World War I, because then Austria-Hungary went to a cold war to Serbia. Russians backed Serbians, Germany backed Austria-Hungary, and the whole world got together for World War I. So it was caused in the Balkans by a Serbian, and then World War II wasn't caused by a Serbian, it was caused by Adolf Hitler wanting to conquer the world. But like it or not, Yugoslavia suffered World War II because they are in Europe and Nazi Germany did conquer Yugoslavia. And then fast forward to 1992, Yugoslavia, civil war in Yugoslavia. They suffered that war. And then the NATO bombing of Serbia in 1999, the Americans and just NATO in general bombing Serbia, Belgrade, and other cities. And then that's recently, right? So every generation in Serbia suffered a war. So it's normal that people in Serbia or that people in the Balkans, they fear that because they know that it can happen whenever, because it's such a region that is so politically unstable. Unlike us who we live in Canada, I feel like no one here fears for war on our territory. Of course, we all So I hear many people talking about, oh, it's sad that there's war in the Middle East. It's sad that there's war in Ukraine or whatever. And even there's some people who fear for World War III. They think that there's somehow, in my opinion, there's never going to be World War III. It's never going to happen. But some people, they fear that World War III is going to happen. And even if it is to happen, it's not going to happen in North America, because here we have the United States of America. And one thing's for sure, no one's attacking the United States of America. No one. There's no fucking chance. It's literally impossible. Not only does America have the biggest fucking army in the world and the strongest army and the most powerful army in the world, but we also have one big fucking advantage, Canadians and Americans. We have two huge oceans separating us from the rest of the world. That is a big geographical advantage that we have, and that keeps us safe. If America was to never attack other countries, and it was simply to keep its army in America to protect America, no one would ever even dare attack America or try to conquer America. Because first of all, not only, like I said, is it the biggest fucking army in the world and the most powerful, but if you wanted to attack or even conquer America, you would have to cross the seas and then attack the biggest fucking army in the world and the strongest army. So it's literally not happening. There's no fucking chance. That's why when World War II happened, the war was in Europe and Africa and Asia, also in Japan and these other places. It wasn't in North America. Neither was World War I, and neither was World War II. Neither was the Vietnam War. Neither was the Iraqi War. Neither is the Russia-Ukraine War. There was no war. The last war that happened on American soil, North America, is like 1776, when Americans told the English that they wanted to be independent. And then like the French War, French with English in like the 1800s, late 1700s, and then the Civil War in America. That is the latest war to happen on North American soil. The Civil War in America. North against the South. That is the latest war to happen, and that's 1865, around that year. Mid 1800s, late 1800s. I'm pretty sure it's 1865 to like 1871, something of that sort. So that's like almost fucking 200 years ago, right? Almost, like soon to be 200 years ago. So it's never going to happen again. There's never going to be war on North American soil, at least for the next 100 years, the years that we're going to live, knock on wood, maybe even more. So like I said, there's many fears, and when you face them, you become better. And even Jordan Peterson talked about this a lot. Carl Jung was the first to mention. Carl Jung was probably the first social scientist, the first intellectual to talk about it. I'm pretty sure the Greek philosophers talked about it a lot also in the past. Like it's something, fear, something that exists since humans exist, literally. But in modern times, Carl Jung, who was a Swiss psychologist, analyst, he was the first to talk about facing your fears and to talk about wherever your fear is, there is your task. That is literally Carl Jung's quote. And what he means is, whatever your fear is, wherever your fear is, there is your task. Whenever you feel like in life, you want to go to the next level, you want to accomplish more than what you have, just ask yourself, what am I afraid of? Don't lie to yourself. Tell yourself the truth. What am I afraid of? Okay, I'm afraid of this. Perfect. I'm going to do that. I'm going to exactly do what I'm afraid to do. Why? Because wherever your fear is, there is your task. The reason we all have different fears is because we're all unique. And since we're all unique, we all have different ambitions, and we all have a different destiny and a different dream. But in order for you to reach your full destiny, to accomplish your dreams and your goals, you have to face your fears, and you have to work, of course, really, really hard. But you have to go in search of that treasure. And the only place where you will find that treasure is in the cave you least want to look. That is also another quote, I think, from Jordan Peterson and many other people. And they say that the treasure you're looking for is in the cave you least want to go and look. Because it's a cave. The cave symbolizes your deepest and biggest fear, and the treasure is just behind it. But in order to get that treasure, you have to enter the cave, you have to face that fear, and you have to slay the dragon's head. That's what it means. Just like all the fairy tales throughout history, and especially medieval times, when there is the story of the knight who saves the princess, right? It's always the same story. The knight goes on this journey, meets the dragon, has to slay the dragon's head in order to save the princess and then marry her, yada yada yada. The dragon represents fear. At the other end of fear is your treasure. It is what you are seeking. What you are seeking is seeking you. The princess is happy when the prince arrives because the princess is seeking the prince. Whatever you're seeking in life, it's seeking you also. That is a universal law told by everyone. So whatever you're seeking, it is seeking you also. That's why the princess is happy to see the prince. But in order for them to be reunited, in order for them to be together, the prince has to face the dragon and has to slay the dragon's head. Once he slays the dragon's head, he gets his prize. He gets what he was seeking. In this fairy tale, it is the princess. Same goes for everything. You want something in life, your dream is, you can tell it to yourself, okay, my dream is this. In order to get that dream, you have to face your biggest fear, slay the dragon's head, kill that fear, it doesn't exist anymore, and constantly, like I said in the beginning of the episode, constantly, whenever your fear comes back slightly, when it slightly creeps up back, you face it again, you keep it out at bay, and that is when you will find your treasure. When you enter the cave you least want to enter, that is where you'll find the treasure that you are seeking. Okay, so talking about bravery, let me give you the official definition, the official dictionary definition of bravery. Bravery is the courageous, often voluntary act of facing fear, danger, pain, or uncertainty to pursue a goal or conviction. It involves acting despite apprehension, covering physical heroism, moral integrity and opposing, and emotional vulnerability. It is essentially a mental and emotional fortitude to navigate difficult situations. Physical bravery, confronting physical threats or danger, such as in rescue situations. Moral bravery, acting on beliefs or speaking up against opposition despite potential social, professional, or personal consequences. Psychological/emotional bravery, facing inner pain, insecurities, or personal challenges, including admitting fear or allowing vulnerability. Without fear, bravery cannot exist. Doing something you're not afraid to do, that's not bravery because you aren't afraid to do it. Bravery is doing something you're afraid to do because you know it has to get done. That is what bravery is. And like I said, fortune favors the brave. So fortune favors people who face their fears and accomplish their fears so they're not anymore fearful of it. That is what fortune favors, people who are brave. But without fear, bravery cannot exist. This also makes me think about GSP, right? Probably the GOAT of the UFC. And if he's not the GOAT, he's number 2. It's between him and John Jones. But we can easily say that GSP is the GOAT. GSP said openly and publicly many times that before every single fight, he's afraid, he's scared. Before every single sparring session, he's afraid, he's scared. He said that even if he was to fight a midget, he would still be afraid because he wouldn't know, maybe the midget's going to do a move, maybe he's short, he can do something. He said, and this is, guys, GSP is the greatest UFC fighter of all fucking time. And even he admitted that before every single fight, he's afraid, he's scared because he doesn't know what's going to happen. That's normal. But what he does well is, even though he's scared, even though he's afraid, he still does it. Doing something that's good, it doesn't matter if you're scared or if you're not scared. The only thing that matters is, are you going to do it or aren't you going to do it? And you have to do it. That's the only thing that matters. This also makes me think about Julien Leblanc. Shout out Julien Leblanc. I had him on my podcast many times, and he also admitted he's a professional MMA fighter. Now he's going to be making his UFC debut in a couple of weeks. Not this Saturday, but next Saturday. He's going to make his UFC debut. And he said on my podcast that before every single fight, he's afraid. He's always scared. He's always afraid because he doesn't know what's going to happen. Having the balls to admit that you're afraid, that is bravery. And that is actually showing to others that you're actually a really brave man, because we're all afraid. All human beings have fears and we're all afraid of something. The difference between winners and losers isn't that winners don't have fears and losers have fears. That's not it. Winners and losers have the same amount of fears. Same amount of fears, right? Same amount. The only difference between winners and losers is winners are people who do it despite being afraid and despite being fearful of what they're doing. They still do it because they know that it has to get done. Losers, they're afraid of it and they don't face it because they're afraid of it. So the only difference is winners do, losers don't. That's the only difference. Let's end this episode with quotes about courage and about facing your fears. So this first quote is from Nelson Mandela, and he said, "Courage is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it." Courage is not the absence of fear. Being courageous doesn't mean that you're absent of fear and there's no fear inside of you. That's not what it is. Courage is triumphing over your fear. That is what courage is. Next quote from Eleanor Roosevelt. She said, "Do one thing every day that scares you." And I heard this so many times. People tell other people that every single day, try to do one thing that scares you. Imagine if you were to do that every single day. After 1 year, you will be so more competent as a human being, and you'll be way more leveled up after 1 year. It will be crazy. 365 days, and every single day you do one thing that scares you. Broski, at the end of the year, you're going to be so much different of a different person than who you were before. And just from personal experience, whenever you face your fears and whenever you triumph over your fears, you level up and you become a different person. It's like you're the same person, but there's more of you. There's more of you. You're more competent. You're more confident. You're more dominant. There's more of you. Next quote, Joseph Campbell. He said, "The cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek." This is exactly what I was telling you guys. The cave you fear to enter, the thing you fear to face, is the place where the treasure is, the treasure you're seeking is. It's exactly the place where it is. Next quote from Jack Canfield. He said, "Everything you want is on the other side of fear." Everything you want out of life, especially for highly ambitious people, the more people are ambitious, the more fears they have to face because the more they are chasing things. So everything you want is on the other side of fear. Next quote, Suzy Kassem. "Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will." Failure doesn't kill dreams. Giving up kills dreams. Not starting because of fear also kills dreams. And that's why this quote is so beautiful. Fear kills more dreams than failure ever will. People who don't start because they're afraid, well, they're never going to accomplish their dreams because they just simply never started. So how can you accomplish a dream that you never started? It's never going to be accomplished. And failing doesn't mean that you won't accomplish your dream, but giving up after X amount of failures means to 100% that you will never accomplish your dreams. It's the giving up part that kills your dreams and not the failing part. The failing part puts you closer and closer to your dreams, actually. It gets you closer and closer to your end goal and to your dreams. It gets you closer. It's the giving up that is killing your dreams. Last quote for this episode. Franklin P. Jones. "Bravery is being the only one who knows you're afraid." That is what bravery is. You know you're afraid, but you still do it. You don't have to tell other people, "Oh, you know what? I'm going to do it, but I'm afraid." You can. I mean, for some people, it works. It helps them get even less afraid because somehow they admit it. They put it out in the world and they just fucking still do it. But that's not what's important. What's important is that you face that fear and you actually do what needs to get done. That is what bravery is. So that was it for this episode, guys. See you next episode. Peace out.